Hello there folks, and welcome back to another speed paint video. This week I've got another Pokemon card illustration redraw video for you guys, and this time I'm going to be drawing some Gold Star Pokemon illustrations. Now, there have been a lot of iterations of shiny Pokemon cards throughout the years, but one of my favorites would have to be the Gold Star Pokemon from the Gen 3 era. These had some really fun illustrations, I believe all by the same illustrator, and I don't know, I just thought they were really neat. They had unique mechanics, you could only have one of them in your deck, and I don't know, I just really like these illustrations. They're very fun. Some of them really take an interesting approach to the shiny colors that I feel like aren't very commonly seen in the modern illustrations. So I thought it'd be fun to redraw some of these since I feel very nostalgic about these cards. So without further ado, let's get into the speed paint. The first card that I'm redrawing today is Mew Gold Star Delta from EX Dragon Frontiers. This card isn't just a Gold Star card, it is also a Delta species card. This was a thing back in the Gen 3 era that was honestly kind of a precursor to regional variants that we see nowadays. These were types of Pokemon that had a different type than they usually would have. For example, this Mew was actually a water-type Pokemon instead of being a psychic-type Pokemon, which I think is very strange and fun. A lot of these Delta species Pokemon also had an unusual aura around them, which you can see very prominently in this Mew illustration. It's got this nice blue aura to show that it's got an unusual water typing. This Mew honestly is just very fun. I feel like all the Mew cards often have, like, an ability where their move mimics another Pokemon's move, which makes a lot of sense considering Mew's moveset in the game, where it is able to learn basically every move possible. And I just think that's really neat that they continue a very similar mechanic in the TCG, despite it being a totally different format. I just really like the illustration on this card. This is one of a few of these that I never had as an actual card as a kid, but I think it's really neat. Apparently it was one of the very few, like, competitively viable of the Gold Star Pokemon, and I just think it's really cool. I think this pose is very fun. It's very funny how, like, angry this Mew looks, since I feel like Mew is normally a more, like, relaxed and mellow sort of Pokemon. So it's very funny to see one that's really mad. It's a fun chance to draw, like, one of the very earliest iterations they've shown officially of shiny Mew. And I just like working with blue, you know? It was also fun doing this background since it reminds me a lot of the action backgrounds used in the Pokemon anime. There's a lot of, like, really fun, like, I would assume looping, like, watercolory, abstract backgrounds they use in the anime, especially for battles and stuff like that. And it feels like this background really does have the vibe of, like, being taken straight out of the Pokemon anime, especially from this era. So there's something, like, deeply nostalgic about this, not just because it's, like, an older Pokemon card, but because of all the elements of it are of the time that it came out, which I think is a lot of fun. Plus, any complementary color palette is always fun to work with. Those are some of my favorite things to do. Working with this beautiful red and orange with that lovely blue palette on Mew, it really makes it stand out quite a bit, and it was very fun to draw. The next card I drew was Gold Star Latias, and this is a really neat card too. I would love to have a copy of this card, but apparently copies of it are going for hundreds if not thousands of dollars apparently, so I'd love to collect it one day, but I don't know, it seems a little bit unattainable. This Latias is really interesting because I feel like they really lean into the green or cool side of this color palette in this one. Like, I feel like when I picture shiny Latias in my head, it is so yellow. But this one almost feels green. It's like on the verge of being like a very almost nasty muted green, but it's shaded in a way that feels so lovely and sleek instead of feeling muddy. And I think that's just really neat. It also coordinates well with the matching Latios card, which I thought about redrawing for this video, but for the sake of variety, I decided to go with some other cards to redraw. But I still had a lot of fun with this Latias. This shading is just so interesting to me. It's very different from the way I usually shade my illustrations. So trying to replicate this was a bit of a challenge, but still a lot of fun. I'm also a big fan of how slitted the pupils are in Latias' eye in this illustration. It really gives her, like, this reptilian vibe that I feel like is rarely used in the illustrations of the Eon duo. I just think it's very fun, very cute. I really do think reptiles are quite adorable, and Latios are super duper cute. So it was fun getting an excuse to draw them, and this was just such an interesting illustration. There is so much foreshortening in all of these Gold Star illustrations, and this one was just a lot of fun. You can really see that airplane inspiration in this pose, and this color palette is so unusual, especially for me and what I like to work with, but I still had a lot of fun with it, and I'm very happy with how this came out. The next card that I decided to draw is one that I actually have a copy of, and it's Jolteon Gold Star. There's a whole set of the evolutions as Gold Star cards, and they're all very fun. All the illustrations are a lot of fun. I really thought about doing the Umbreon one for this video too, and I don't know, I think I just ended up going with the Jolteon since I guess I'm just familiar with it. I actually grew up having this card. I believe I got it as part of like a World Championship deck as a kid. And I just think it's a lot of fun. This illustration is so foreshortening. And as a kid, I didn't even realize the Jolteon was shiny because it looks so yellow in the illustration, especially when accompanied by the card border that's yellow. So it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, oh my god, this Jolteon's supposed to be green. But I'd really emphasize the green in my redraw because I thought that would be a lot of fun. I thought it would give it like a fun flying through space kind of feel in my redraw. And this foreshortening really kicked my butt. It was deceptively challenging, but I still had a lot of fun drawing it. I think this pose is so fun. I don't see a lot of poses like this in like most of the official art for these Pokemon, and it's the kind of art that you really only get in the TCG. The Pokemon trading card illustrations really show you a new angle, very literally and figuratively, on all the Pokemon in the series, so I just think this one's a lot of fun. It was very fun trying to make it look like it's smiling while leaping through the air, and doing this abstract background while trying to replicate the feel of the orb holofoil from this era was just a lot of fun. I love the orb style holofoil, which I think nowadays is called Cosmos holofoil, like a lot of the promo cards have that. It's definitely my favorite. I just love these little orbs, I love the way that they look, and it just reminds me of a lot of the older cards from my childhood. So it was very fun going in and trying to redraw this Jolteon, who I grew up having in one of my decks. The last card I redrew was Gold Star Registeel, which is another card that I don't actually have, but I think it would be really cool to get a copy of this one day. Registeel is just a really cool Pokemon. I'm a big fan of the Reggies. I really loved them growing up. I just think they're so fun. I love any Pokemon whose face is kind of unusual or hard to parse. I think that's part of why I love the Ultra Beasts so much, because most of them have, you know, very odd or unusual, or sometimes have no face at all. And I think that's part of the appeal for the Reggies for me. I think it adds to their, like, alien and synthetic vibe, but they also feel ancient and inscrutable in a way that is so fun. And this Registeel pose is so fun. I really ran into, like, an interesting thing with these illustrations, because on the cards, the Pokemon are actually breaking out of the border of the illustration. But here in my redraw, I was working on a canvas that was just the size of the original illustration, and I didn't want to awkwardly crop out, like, the tips of fingers or wings or anything like that. So I kind of had to rearrange the drawing a little bit to actually fit in frame, whereas the original cards didn't have to worry about that. So it was kind of interesting trying to figure out how to maintain this amount of motion, how to maintain like the vibes of this pose without ruining the integrity that it had by breaking out of the border originally. And I had a lot of fun with this. The shading for this was so crazy, but it's actually deceptively simple. Just looking at the card, I was able to just study how it was blended out, figure out where the edges of the shadows and highlights were, and I really basically just copied what I saw and just made it more contrasty to fit in a little bit with my style. And I feel like it made this Registeel so darn shiny, no pun intended, and it really gives it that metallic feel that makes it very different from the other cards in this set. And I just had a lot of fun with it. This Pokemon's just a lot of fun. This background was honestly deceptively challenging since I didn't want it to detract from the actual Pokemon in this illustration, so I took a little bit of time to make sure it was a little bit muted, so that way the focus was still here on Registeel and its awesome little pose that it's doing here. And yeah, it's always fun to draw the Reggies, and Registeel has just such a great shiny. I love the teal that's in its palette, and I think it just suits it very well, so it was very fun to draw this guy. And And with that, that is all that I've got for you guys today, so thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have any other types of Pokemon cards you'd love to see me redraw, let me know in the comments. I'd love to do more of these videos in the future. If you would like to support me, why not check out my Kickstarter project right now, Mothman Pride Stickers Volume 2. This is running all through Pride Month, so you've still got a couple weeks to go support it before it ends. We actually just unlocked the 3rd set of stickers at the time of recording this, and that means all 30 sticker designs are available, so if you have one of the more, I would say, niche or rarer identities featured in the later sets, they're finally unlocked, so if you would like to get stickers representing yourself, go check them out. We're also trying to unlock pins, which will unlock at the $800 mark, so all 30 designs will be available as the pins once we unlock them, so let's see if we can hit that mark and unlock some wonderful pins. If you're watching this after Pride Month has already ended, why not support me through my Ko-fi page? You can follow me on there for blog updates as to what I'm working on, and you can also support me monthly and get behind-the-scenes bonuses and things like that. You can also commission me or check out my shop, which I have plenty of adoptables on there, and zines and things like that that are all a lot of fun. And honestly, just a follow on Ko-fi is hugely appreciated, so thank you all so much for even just considering supporting. And with that, that is all that I've got for you guys today. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you again next week with another video. And in the meantime, why don't you guys go out there and make some art?